Hello and welcome to another F12 programming. My name is Mike Hewitt.
I'm Jacob Brains.
And what do we got? What do we got to do?
This is kind of a hodgepodge video. So what I wanted to do was just kind of go over some of the newer features that have crept into C# over the last 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
That maybe some people aren't aware of. We might hit some older stuff that's around that maybe just escaped their.
Like what version and higher?
7, 8, anything higher than that.
Okay.
Yeah. So maybe back to 6. I don't know.
And
we'll see what we cover.
sometimes you've been programming for so long, you do things an old way, and all of a sudden you kind of forget to. A lot of the simple stuff. Sometimes you go back. Like I know with how you format a string or something. I was doing a very old style way of doing it because you don't think to go back and refresh on stuff like that.
Yeah, you know how to do it, and your way works.
Yes.
So
yes.
there's no reason you can't keep doing it the old ways. But there's some things that are useful. So one of the things I wanted to talk about was just how we do some of our constants, not constants, our set values when we're setting a variable.
Okay.
So if I say int value 1 equal to 5, everybody knows what that means. But there are other ways we can set a variable, and some of these have been around for a little while. So, like for example, if we had a hexadecimal value,
Okay.
they don't come up very often. .NET allows you to hit 0x,
Okay.
and you could literally put in a hexadecimal value, like FF, which is 255. I've seen people actually come across they're like the first time they've ever come across a hex value, and they end up writing some kind of converter to figure out how to put it in there or something, and it's not necessary. We can actually just put 0x and literally just hard code FF in there, and it knows, oh, that means it's a hexadecimal value as opposed to a decimal value like we use. And if that's going over your head, that's okay. Just remember this video when it comes up someday. But there's a lot of newer things you can do that I think people don't know. This one got introduced in 7, I think it was. There's an int value.
And the easiest way to describe hexadecimals for me is if humans had 16 fingers rather than 10.
Yeah, that's exactly right. we count to 0, we get to 9, we keep going, A, B, C, D, E, F, and then we jump back to 10. Yep.
Sorry.
But we do things in binary, and sometimes we actually need to know the binary value. So 5, for those of you who remember their old binary math, I think the younger programmers have no idea. That is 101.
Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. So
I was doing it in my head real quick. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if we need to put the value of 101, the binary values of a 1, a 0, and a 1 into a variable, we say 5. That seems nonsensical just to look at it, unless you actually do the math in your head. But we don't have to anymore, because in .NET, or in C#, I should say, we can say, I believe it is 0b, 101. And it just knows that means 5.
Okay.
Where that really comes into handy is for people who get into some of the flags and bit shifting and things like that. Not all programmers get into that kind of stuff. But, if you're in...
So B for binary.
B for binary, and you could just put it in there.
X for hex.
X for hex. So, and I don't know where the 0x came from, but it's been around forever. It predates.
You've seen
it. It goes back. You go back into the 50s and 60s. It's 0x. I don't know where that started, but. So here's one that everybody can use.
Okay.
Let's go say int value 4 equals, and we're going to put a number. Let's say the number of seconds in a year. That's some hard-coded value we need to put in there. So, real quick, 60 seconds in a minute times 60 minutes times 24 hours. What did I say? In a day? In a year? No, I said in a year.
Yep.
So, let's say times 365, 0.25. Yeah, let's go ahead and do it. So, we end up with this number. So, we're gonna put this in here. I'm gonna drag this off screen so I can see it. 31557,600, and we're going to put that in there, and we'll probably put a little comment out here, seconds in a year. That's great, but that's really hard to read.
Yep.
Because it's a big mesh of numbers. Normally, if it was a number, we would put commas in here, and now it's clear. Oh, that's 31 million.
Right.
But it breaks the code, so we can't do that either. But what we can do is put underscores.
Oh, okay.
I don't see it very often in code, but it's perfectly legit. The compiler doesn't care. There's no change in performance. It just gets more readable.
Okay.
The weird thing about it is it doesn't care where you put the underscores. So you could put an underscore between every single number if you want to. It doesn't care, but it does make it a lot more readable.
Okay. That is very interesting. And something new.
That is something new. So let's talk about expression-bodied members for a second. Let's say I wanted to write a really quick function.
Okay.
Right? Public int add, and it's going to take an int of an x and an int of y, and I just want to add them together. Sometimes we write a method, and it's just not terribly complicated, right?
Mm-hmm.
You end up with something like that. I can write this in less code just by saying, I'm going to drop our squiggly braces here. I'm going to drop the return statement.
Yep.
I'm going to put it all in one line, and I'm just going to add a little arrow like we're doing a lambda expression.
Gotcha.
And this, well, less the fact that it matches the name of the one ahead of it, is a perfectly valid function.
Okay.
We can use these anytime. We really only need to use one thing. Where you kind of see this a little bit is on properties. So if I say public int, if I can type today, property A, I can do something real simple like that. Property A now returns 1, 2, 3.
Or you can pull...
or I can pull in a variable.
why don't you do property B is property A plus 1? Can you do that?
Public int property B, and I'm going to set it equal to property A plus 1.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. And we can use it for methods, properties, anything we need to do. You can even get really fancy with this. We can say public int property C. Go ahead and put our squigglies, and we could just say get property A plus 2. I don't know where it came up with that, but sure. And we can even use it for the setters. I don't have a variable that I can use for this, but sure, let's just say, make some variable out here. That's really what I'm struggling with here. Just some field name out here. Private int
Z.
Z. So I'm going to say, I'm going to get Z, and I'm going to say Z equals value. That is a perfectly legit property, and this uses way less syntax than having all these curly braces everywhere. It's a lot more readable.
Yeah. Because I feel like sometimes it gets pushed down so far with so many squiggly braces that it just kind of, you keep going.
Yeah, I'm going to throw one more in here if I got time. We're going to do a switch statement. Real quick. So we're going to do a switch statement on x, and we're going to make this real simple. If x is 0, then we want to do some work. And if x is 1, we want to do some work. But sometimes we want to change it based on the y value. So I'm going to use a win.
Okay.
So effectively, I'm switching on the x, but I'm also looking at the y value and doing two different outcomes based on that.
Ah, I like
so
that.
So a lot of people haven't seen that one, so
yeah,
I wanted to throw that in there.
Interesting. Very interesting.
All right, we may do another one of these maybe and get some other stuff in here.
Yeah, I like this. I hope you learned something. I think that, yeah, that property stuff is pretty cool.
Thank you for watching that video from F12 Programming. Please remember to like and subscribe. That does so much for us in the ratings. You have no idea. Also, don't forget to comment below. I hope you enjoyed, and good luck coding.